Hello, lovelies. In today's lesson, we are learning about how sunlight actually plays a role in creating wind that you feel on Earth. So, the first thing to understand is where our heat energy actually comes from. All radiant and thermal energy that we get that influences our weather comes from the sun. This is a key piece. Because the Earth is tilted on its axis, we receive that sunlight, that heat energy unevenly. Uneven heat leads to temperature differences around the globe. That's why it's warmer in some spots and cooler in other spots. And because there's temperature differences, that means there's also density differences. That some of those areas, it's going to be higher density air, and some areas it's going to be lower density in atmosphere. But what does all of this mean? I'm getting to your point, I promise. All of this means convection. We've learned that convection is the process by which heat is transferred by the movement of a heated fluid such as air or water. And that's a really fancy way of saying that it's a cycle, it's a current of heat transfer, it's a circular motion of air, of any gas or liquid moving from high density to low density, from cooler to warmer. And so what we're describing here is convection. But in terms of weather and how winds are created on Earth, we dig a little deeper. So wherever there's direct sunlight on Earth, the temperature is warmer. You know this, that it's warmest near the equator. When that air is heated, it expands and causes the molecules to spread apart. And that causes the density of warm air to decrease. And when warmer air decreases in density, that means that the air is rising because it's lighter. Wherever there is indirect sunlight on Earth, the temperature is cooler. As the air cools, it condenses, and those air molecules group together. They're kind of huddling together for warmth. Not really, but you can think about it that way. This means that the density of that cool air is increasing because all of those molecules are in closer together. And we know so far that air that is more dense sinks because it's heavier. That's convection in a nutshell. But here's where it ties into the creation and formation of winds. The North and South poles receive the most indirect sunlight on Earth. I mean, that's why it's the coolest places on Earth. The equator receives the most direct sunlight on Earth. And as you move away from the equator and towards the poles, the sunlight becomes less direct and more indirect. So what that means is that there's differences in temperature. There's like pockets of convection all around the globe because air is rising and sinking all over the Earth's surface because of the differences in temperature. That means that rising and sinking air in those pockets create differences in density throughout the atmosphere on Earth. And unfortunately, the atmosphere does not like to be unbalanced. And so what it does is that the atmosphere tries to stabilize or balance those temperature and density differences by moving air molecules from high density to low density. That is a movement of air, and a movement of air is wind. So that's it. That's how sunlight creates wind, and it's because the earth is heated unevenly because of its tilt by the sun. That causes a difference in temperatures and a difference in densities of air all around the globe. That creates convection currents throughout the atmosphere. And as those air molecules are moving from high density to low density areas, we feel that those movement of air molecules, and we know it as wind.